So, my brother thinks he can steal a priceless family heirloom and try to sell it. Well, I'm not going to let that happen, so I do something pretty sneaky. Let me know if I went too far.
Hello everyone, my name's Nadia, and my brother Elias and I grew up with our grandma. After our parents died in a crash when I was 6 and he was 4, our grandma was a strict yet lovely woman who took care of us without fail. She was the kind of woman who rewarded her hard work and looked down upon lazy people. Wow. She had rules for us as we grew up, but she was flexible with them if we provided her with enough evidence that they needed to be changed. My brother and I were a very difficult people, personality-wise, which explained how her rules affected us differently. I always helped my grandma around the house, going grocery shopping for her as a teenager when I knew that she was having a hard time with her health. I would keep the house clean if she could not do much around it, and she appreciated the help. On the other hand, my brother was absolutely useless. He didn't even look after himself, which annoyed my grandma greatly. They butted heads and a lot growing up, because Elias liked doing whatever he wanted without taking anyone else into account. Things got worse when I went to college out of state. Even then, my 16-year-old brother did not try to help out our aging grandmother with her responsibilities. He constantly got into trouble at school and around the house too. They got into fights while I was gone, and when it was his time to go to college, he didn't get into any. So he starts working at small-time jobs here and there. I moved back after college and got an apartment near my grandma's house, so I could come over any time and help around it, and she was super old and had a full-grown adult living with her, depending on her for food and shelter. She wasn't a rich woman. She had a small house that we lived in and some heirlooms. Growing up, Elias and I were enamored by her jewelry collection. Most of it belonged to her mother, who had given them to her on her deathbed because my grandma was her only child. She had also inherited a full set of expensive silverware and an expensive collection of heirlooms that my grandma cherished above all else. So while she wasn't exactly rich, she did have family heirlooms that could be sold if she was in desperate need of money. Yet I always knew that she would never want to sell them. I always dreamt of studying hard and earning enough money so that she would never have to be desperate enough to sell those heirlooms. This was well enough because 2 years ago we found out that my grandmother has Parkinson's disease. It made her life even more difficult, and still my brother did not put much effort into helping his grandmother. Instead, I got a nurse to take care of her during the daytime, and I would return from work to take care of my grandma, leaving only after she was put to bed. At least I earned enough to get someone to look after her while I wasn't around. It was a difficult time for me. However, a week ago, she choked on her food, and the nurse was there and took her to the hospital just in time. Grandmother stayed in the ICU for 3 days until she passed away. It was devastating for me. She didn't have any other children except for my father, so we had to take care of the funeral. Distant relatives and her friends offering both of us their condolences. Elias was not as devastated as me, as he wasn't very close to our grandma, so he did take just every care of most things. I was grateful that he finally stepped up, even though we didn't get along nicely. Our lawyer came in yesterday and read my grandma's will to us. She had given the house to Elias and me, which was great because we was already living there permanently anyways. However, the house did not have much value as it was old and on very, very small property. On the other hand, I got all the heirlooms. I could see that he was upset at the disproportionate distribution of the money. However, he had not put in much effort for our grandmother while I had, so it was obviously going to go this way. Recently, Elias has been associating with the wrong crowd, much to my dismay. So I wasn't surprised when he didn't immediately fight with me for what he believed was rightfully his and instead asked me if I could just help him out. He claimed to need some money to start his own business, stating that our grandma was going to contribute anyways, but she died before she could change the will. I immediately knew that he was lying. I told him as much to his face, which angered him. I reminded him that he was a person who had done nothing with his life and lacked ambition. Given his recent involvement with alcohol and drugs, how was I supposed to believe what he said? Grandma would have told me if she had decided to give him money to help him out, or at least she would have mentioned it when she was in the ICU, with real possibility of passing away. But she had not, hence I did not believe Elias's claim at all. This did not please Elias, and he yelled at me for simply taking advantage of Grandma's favoritism. He claimed that Grandma always played favorites and absolutely despised him, and that's why she gave him worthless things while I got to have the luxurious stuff that she had. I reminded him that I was the one who dedicated her life to our ailing grandmother, not him. I was coming home every day from the office to make her dinner, settle her into bed before returning to my own house, not him. He screamed at me that he was always doing his own job. Well, this made me mad, as I knew that he regularly came back drunk, because I would always find the remnants of shattered glass bottles scattered amongst the house. I told him that I knew how hard he was working. Who did he think cleaned up his smashed glass bottles before going to work? And then he had the audacity to ask if he ever asked me to do that in the first place. Ugh, this only fueled my anger towards my useless brother even more. I informed him that he should be grateful I helped around the house because of Grandma. Now that she's gone, I would not be coming over to clean up his mess. He retorted and said that he didn't need me anyways. I stated that only time would tell. Before I could leave the house with all of Grandma's jewelry and silverware in my car, he warned me to rethink it or he would take matters into his own hands. It scared me a little, but I did not back down. I told him that I would involve the legal justice system if he did not back down, and I had rightfully inherited the heirlooms. And if he wanted more, he should have treated Grandma better when she was alive. Well, he turned red in anger and screamed at me that he was trying to find his footing and that he only wanted money for his business. I suggested that we sell the house we inherited and, he can go live in an apartment with half the money until his business turns a profit. He dismissed that idea and said that it was stupid. Well, arguing that the property would not sell for much. Taking away his home, he didn't want to struggle to find apartments and pay rent while starting his business. I reminded him that every new business required sacrifice. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Yet he did not listen to anything I said as he circled back to asking me for money. Absolutely frustrated, I told him that I knew he would just end up buying alcohol and drugs with the money that I've given him. Hence, I would not give him anything. I told him to never contact me again if he only wanted money from me. However, there was a fire in his eyes I'd never seen before. He was enraged by my reactions, which did scare me a little. I'm a little scared of what my brother might do and get his hands on the heirlooms. Oh man, I've inherited them straight from Grandma. I will be putting them away in the bank, of course, but I know he'll try to steal them from me. I'm angry that he thinks he has any sort of claim over Grandmother's heirlooms that she gave to me. How dare he be angry that he did not inherit them when he treated her so poorly when she was alive? I don't know, guys. I just want to teach him a lesson to not be so darn greedy. What should I do? He'll come after me, I know it. I need to go after him before he can. If any of you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below. Update number 1. Hey everyone, I just wanted to come back for an update, and well, I hope you guys are doing good. It's Nadia again. I've gone through all your comments and I'm grateful for your suggestions. I've also read the comments suggesting I give my brother another chance. However, I strongly disagree with those. It's challenging to convey the full extent of the kind of person he is. There's no way for me to just communicate to you how little he cares about improving. He's never contributed to helping around the house, even when Grandma was sick. He didn't make an effort to secure a better paying job by enhancing his skills. He goes with the flow of life to the extent that he relies on everyone around him but himself, and he's not the kind of person you trust with your money. Regardless, I would never give him my money because I don't have much of it left anyways. Having a family member spend 3 days and 3 nights at a hospital is not very cheap, and I paid for that single-handedly. How does he expect me to help him out? I mean, come on. I have some meager savings for my own safety net, and the family heirlooms that I will, under no condition, be up for selling. My grandmother did not want me to do so. We did run into each other at the grocery store as we lived nearby, and a week after our initial fight, he again asked me if I had changed my mind. I just rolled my eyes at him and told him that he did not deserve Grandma's heirlooms or money. I reminded him that he pitched in nothing for Grandma's stay at the hospital, which greatly decreased my savings. Hence, he asked me to give him a few heirloom pieces that he could sell instead, and I hissed at him that Grandma did not want them sold. That's why she gave them to me instead of him, and Elias reminded me that our Grandma was dead while we were alive. He tried to convince me that using the heirlooms themselves when we needed it was a much more logical plan, and I reminded him that I wasn't in need of money anyway, so I wasn't selling them. However, I did goad him by saying that I was going to display the silverware at my house just like Grandma had. I also added that I had put the jewelry in my closet and was planning on cleaning it every few months, just like Grandma did, to honor her tradition. I saw a glint in his eyes that I didn't like at all, but he eventually backed off. Anyways, I do have a plan to deal with him now. I went to every jewelry shop and I deposited the actual heirlooms at the bank. Even before the grocery store incident, I asked around if they could recreate the jewelry for me, and they agreed that they could in just a week's time. Getting a fake set of silverware was difficult, but I knew a guy who knew a guy. Though it would take time, I was just hoping it would not be too late. Unfortunately, it was not. So, I placed a fake silverware in my living room display. The design is not quite the same, but I'm hoping Elias would not notice in his greed for a quick buck. Now all I need is for him to steal the fake. And then I'm going to teach him a lesson to never mess with me. Update number 2. Hey everyone, it's Nadia again with another update. It's only been 2 more weeks and something huge has happened. When I came back home after my office hours, I found my door unlocked. I knew at that moment that Elias had already stolen the fake heirlooms. What I wasn't expecting was that the way he would have trashed my house to get to them. Even though I've told him exactly where they were and, where the fake ones were at least. I checked the display and the silverware had been stolen. And my closet did not have fake jewelry either, and I'd taken all the cash out of the house on account of Elias anyway, so nothing expensive was stolen. I did feel annoyed that he had caused more trouble for me by trashing the house. Although I soon realized he did it so that it would look like a burglar had stolen the heirlooms instead of him. He was smart. I have to give him that. So I called the cops over so that Elias would not suspect me of knowing that he was the one who stole them. I didn't even have to pretend that somebody robbed me. The evidence was present in my upturned couch and torn mattress and all the scattered books around my living room, and the cops asked me for a list of things that were stolen. I told them that not much had been stolen, to be honest, because I was just scared that someone had entered my home. I had called Elias over for help too, and when he arrived, he pretended to be scared and shocked for me. He asked me what's been stolen, and I told him a completely different story, and then the one I shared with the cops. I cried that all the heirlooms are gone and my house is trashed, and he pretended to be mad at me for being so careless. I explained that I've been cautious and I hadn't let my doors or windows open at all. However, my grandma had an extra key to my house that hung on the key holder in her house, which now belonged to Elias. He screamed at me, blaming me for the reason that this all happened, and yes, I shed some tears, claiming that I could not have predicted something like this to happen to me. And when the cops were gone, he promised that he would get cameras installed in my house tomorrow while I was at work. I clutched my chest and thanked him for his generosity. He told me that we were siblings, and now that our grandma was dead, we only had each other. If we don't help each other, who will we help? I pretended to be moved by his speech. After Elias left, I immediately called my friends. Vicky, she's 28. I have a lot of plans for Elias. He messed with the wrong person, and now he will regret it. Now that he's absolutely trashed my house instead of simply taking the heirlooms like I expected him to do, I'm furious. I'll have to spend a considerable amount of time cleaning up the house, and I'm extra angry at this behavior. Update number 3. Hey everyone, it's Nadia. About a week ago, I visited Vicky's place. Vicky is one of my co-workers, someone Elias had no way of knowing. We've been working together for the past 3 years and have grown quite close. Occasionally, we carpool to the office because her house was between mine and the office. Although we lived nearby, we had never run into each other before we started working together. When I asked for her help a few weeks ago, she immediately agreed. She was just as annoyed as me at how Elias had acted like an entitled brat and not inheriting the family heirlooms. Her reaction reassured me, and she emphasized that what I was doing wasn't wrong, because Elias had committed a crime by stealing the heirlooms from me, fake or not. His intentions had been bad from the start, making me feel much less guilty for what I was about to do to him. Either way, he was a criminal who had committed a crime against me. She went to the grocery store where Elias shopped and, quote, accidentally ran into him, pretending to talk about buying antique jewelry on her phone while Elias' vicinity caught his attention just like we had hoped. When she was done with the call, he approached her and asked if she would be interested in some 19th century jewelry passed down to him from his grandmother. I was mad at how he claimed that he had inherited it instead of me. Vicky enthusiastically agreed, claiming to be an antique collector. Elias then asked her if she, or someone she knew would be interested in the 19th century silverware. She claimed that she would like to see the silverware as well, feigning interest, and she exchanged numbers with Elias before parting ways, with Elias promising to send her pictures of their heirlooms by the end of the day. When I arrived, we continued texting with Elias, and Vicky pretended to be currently out of state, asked him if he could consult a jeweler about the legitimacy of the heirlooms on her behalf. Elias agreed and even promised to bring a certified jeweler with him during the exchange. However, knowing Elias would not bring anyone legitimate, as there's no reason for him to suspect the heirlooms were fake, I feel confident about the plan. Elias assured her that they were purely legitimate. Passed down through the generations, of course. Despite this, he agreed to bring jewelry to alleviate her pains. We're going to the jeweler. We then negotiated the price of everything, and Elias was about to make a significant amount of money, but only for a few hours, as the money would soon be taken away from him unbeknownst to him. Vicky was to retrieve the jewelry and silverware, and Elias hopefully bringing a fake jeweler to confirm their authenticity. She would pay Elias, and then Vicky would pretend to consult her own jeweler, who would declare the heirlooms fake. Subsequently, Vicky planned to go to the police, accusing Elias of selling her fraudulent heirlooms and framing him for fraud. Update number 4. Hey, it's Nadia again, and the plan has worked. Alright, let me go ahead and just catch everybody up on this. Vicky went to Elias's house, which used to be my grandmother's house. There's a fake jeweler confirmed that the heirlooms were legitimate, and I suspected the fake jeweler was one of the unsavory characters Elias has been associating with, likely a fellow drunk or drug addict. Vicky transferred the money to Elias's account, and the transaction was completed. After a few hours, she went to the jewelry store to get the heirlooms checked. Predictably, the jeweler informed her that the jewelry and silverware were fake and not worth much. Vicky pretended to be horrified, revealing that she's acquired them just a few hours ago, and the jeweler suggested she call the cops immediately. So, the police, they arrive, and she provided Elias's address, and he was arrested for selling fake items. Confused, Elias begged for his innocence throughout his stay at the prison until I came by. I asked the cops if I could have a few minutes alone with my brother. They granted me the permission. Elias admitted to stealing the heirlooms from me, but he seemed puzzled about being charged with fraud. A laugh managed to escape me, prompting him to think more deeply about the situation at hand, and it dawned upon him. He pointed an accusing finger at me, insisting I framed him for fraud, and with another laugh I challenged him. What could he do about it? He threatened to tell the authorities that I framed him by swapping the real heirlooms with the fake ones, and my laughter persisted as I reminded him that in any case, he would still be a criminal. I could easily claim I swapped the heirlooms to protect the real ones from theft, and I deliberately informed the police that nothing valuable had been stolen from my house, leaving it exposed for robbing it. Even the heirlooms were fake. The color drained from his face, and a moment of satisfaction for me. He told me that I was a horrible sister. So, I told him that he was a horrible brother in the first place, for being greedy for what was rightfully mine. It was a checkmate situation. He was heading to jail either way. I disclosed that Vicky was my friend, and yes, I orchestrated the plan. However, there was no evidence of our collaboration, and warning him not to attempt to implicate us. Our acquaintance did not change the fact that Elias committed fraud unknowingly and intentionally broke into my house to steal what he believed were valuable heirlooms. He ended up confessing to breaking and entering into my house, as the sentence for that was much lower than being framed for fraud. So, his lawyer must have suggested that to him, he transferred the money he took from Vicky back to her. So, the man who claimed to be his jeweler was also charged with fraud, as he was, impersonating a jeweler. Elias's trial will be in a few weeks, and I think it's a perfect lesson for someone like Elias. Final update. Hello everyone, it's Nadia, and I believe this will be my final update with Elias's trial now concluded. I wanted to share the latest developments. It's been around 2 months since my last update, where Elias pleaded guilty to breaking and entering my house rather than just facing charges of fraud against Vicky, as he should have. Well, the trial swiftly followed. Elias was convicted of stealing, even breaking and entering, and, resulting in a 16-month sentence. Throughout the trial, Vicky stood by me as I reveled in Elias's misery and regret. He had attempted to seize what was rightfully mine, like he was entitled to something given to me willingly by my grandma. But now he would pay for underestimating me. He messed with the wrong person, and now he's regretting it. I feel oddly relieved that Elias can no longer threaten my grandmother's legacy, and if you knew her, you would simply understand how much she cherished the heirlooms, proudly recounting their lineage from her mother. She had hoped to pass them on to her daughter, but fate had other plans when she gave birth to a son, who died way before her. With Elias behind bars, the heirlooms are secure, and I've brought out the silverware displayed proudly in the cabinet of my dining table. I still miss my grandmother profoundly. Cleaning the silverware feels like a cathartic tribute, almost as if she was here beside me, humming a tune as we clean together. My grandmother was a strong-willed woman and did not tolerate any nonsense, and I believe that she'd be proud of how I protected her beloved heirlooms from Elias's greed. And that concludes this chapter of the drama, at least until the next 16 months until Elias returns. However, I plan to be far away from him by then. Thank you for reading this. Even if some of you disagreed with my actions, it meant a lot just to be heard.
So I was reading in the comment section about today's story, and it was actually saying, I don't think this took place in America, because OP would have gotten in trouble for basically setting up a crime. I'm not an expert at all, so I don't know at all if OP would have got in trouble. Let me know if you guys think this story could have possibly taken place in the United States. Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's discuss it down there. My name is Mr. Reddito, and if you guys are new to the channel, just know I do these sort of stories every single day, and you never know what we're going to talk about. Inheritance dramas, mother-in-law disputes, Karen in the Wild stories, wedding fiascos, my favorite, homeowner association stories, because they are bonkers. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. If you want to subscribe, go ahead, click that button. I'll see you tomorrow, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.